So the reason I want to warn y'all is that it's going to be a lot of mention of some. I don't even know how to like describe this on Twitch. Uh, should I even watch this on Twitch? Basically, Grizzly Smith was a bad dude, and he did bad things to children. So we're gonna hear about some of those things. And if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, please feel free to click away, because honestly, it's not great to hear about. It's not fun. But it's part of what made Jake Roberts who Jake Roberts is, and we're gonna watch it and book some Jake Roberts. Damn, he's a child abuser of the adult nature, is how Ryan is recommending I describe it. That's that's something you could say for factually. Yes, he sure was. He was the child. He's a child abuser, and they may talk about some explicit things a little bit here and there. So let's just everybody be aware of that. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can't edit the dark side kind of stuff in the bottom here. Then we are gonna go ahead and start this again. Correct, didn't crash anything. Beautiful. We love it when it doesn't crash everything. Excellent. Yeah, Jake the Snake Roberts, y'all. Features a discussion about. Okay, yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Jake the Snake
A discussion about
Roberts is
incest
one
and
of the most
sexual abuse.
authentic personalities the wrestling world has ever seen.
I'll drop you so fast that DDT, your whole family will fall down.
Behind his raw intensity lies a depth of personal trauma, which has shaped his iconic in-ring persona.
How could anything that looks so hot be so cold? Well, it's easy. You see, time has done that to me.
Unknown to fans for years, wrestlers Sam Houston and Rockin' Robin are Jake the Snake's real-life brother and sister. Each followed in the footsteps of their father, wrestling giant Grizzly Smith.
The control that Grizz had over his kids. He could pit them all against each other because he was a master of everything. He was a puppeteer.
Scarred by traumatic childhoods, the Smith children followed
Dynamite is coming to
self-destructive paths,
Toronto.
and each battled addictions that
The
nearly
closest they've come to
destroyed their
Buffalo.
lives.
You know how hard it is to put a smile on your face?
I guess that is
kind
kinda close.
Shit, you really are.
I'd been in prison 2 days and I tried to hang myself.
It's the very, very young girls that seems to be the trigger. And I was scared of it, just totally
Steven
scared.
Regal.
This is Joe Lynn here. Without a body,
Oh wow, y'all.
foul murder.
The Academy Award
Decades
went to
later,
Rain Man.
the Smith family finally faced their haunted past in order to survive beyond the ring.
Lies have consequences.
If you want to feel pain, then you have to go from the top and get knocked to the bottom. That's when you feel real pain.
Okay, okay. OMG's getting shit together. The shadow of Grizzly Smith, y'all. Welcome
None of us
to
wants
it.
to talk about what happened. It's too painful. There's just too damn much that gets drug out. There's just no relationship. There was no pat each other on the back shit. There was no, I'm happy for you. You would have never thought we were brothers and sisters, that's for sure.
Why were you guys not close?
Because we were always that way. We had just been kind of raised at a distance.
Since the formulation of professional wrestling as an organized sport, it's been a family business to a lot of the participants. There's been a lot of well-known wrestling families like the Hart family from Calgary, the Von Erichs from Texas. You could trust family members with the business secrets and the secrets in the ring because they were your blood. And
I'm gonna do
also
3
they had a
months
vested interest in the
at
success
late
of
night.
the industry because
Just
it
'cause
was
I
their
don't have
livelihood as well.
full
I'm Jim
confidence in
Cornette.
getting a
For over
90
40
every
years,
night.
I've been a part of professional wrestling as an announcer, manager, promoter, but also I've been a student of professional wrestling history for over 50 years.
So can you give us an introduction to the Smith family?
Even though the Smith family was all related, the people inside the industry knew that, but to the fans, Jake Roberts, Sam Houston, Rockin' Robin, Grizzly Smith were all different people. There was no knowledge publicly that they were related. You know, in all honesty, Sam Houston was the best in-ring performer of the entire family.
My name's Michael Smith.
AKA Sam Houston. How I fit into the Smith family, I'm one of them. Depending on who you look at, I mean, I'm somebody's father, I'm somebody's son, I'm somebody's brother. Through our family, first Jake's the oldest, then Richard, then myself, and then Robin. Robin's one of the best women's world champions, you know, ever come down the line. And she's my sister. And it's an honor for me to say that.
Tell us the name that you wrestled under.
Many years ago, Rockin' Robin.
You know how that name came about?
Actually, it was just kind of a lazy thing. One of my first matches, they said, what do you want to be announced as? And I just said, okay, Rockin' Robin. I think I would have liked to have tried out Rotten Robin. I think that would have been fun.
2.5.
I'm Robin Smith.
Oh, 2.5
and
hours
from
away.
The Smith family.
Got you.
I'm the sister of Jake the Snake Roberts, Sam Houston, and then I have another brother
Nice.
that a lot of people don't know about, Richard.
My name's Richard Neighbors, and Orion Smith is my father, and Jake Roberts is my brother, Sam Houston is my brother, Robin Smith is my sister.
So can you tell us who Orion Smith Jr. is?
That's Jake. This is Jake and myself. Jake the Snake Roberts is his wrestling name. When he was growing up in high school, my grandmother and stuff called him Buster. That was his nickname.
TBS wants
Kind
to
of
cancel
stuck
the
with him
deal.
for years, but I mean,
Okay.
Jake's what he wrestles by, what he goes by.
So why wasn't getting involved in wrestling anything that was interesting to you?
I didn't want to travel like that. It's not a lifestyle. But Jake likes the attention. He likes all the stardom being on him.
Please welcome Jake the Snake Roberts.
When he walks in the room, I mean, it's like, you know, he wants it all to be there. And that's from being in the ring so many years. That's being in that business. It's just a rat race. It wasn't me.
I like this soundtrack. they
Jake
got
Roberts
going.
as a wrestler had strengths and had weaknesses.
Although it might get me claimed.
Jake Roberts was never a high-level amateur athlete. He didn't have a ridiculous physique. But what Jake
Yeah, I'm
knew
not
and
gonna buy
understood
these
was
guys.
the
That's too
mental
much to
aspect
pay
of pro
for a
wrestling,
tiny
the
company.
psychology of it. By growing up with a father in wrestling and by learning how to think of it, and he
I
had
got
the
him a while
verbal
back, but
ability.
just
Don't
can't.
come calling me a sicko, because, brother, if you look at yourself in the mirror, I think you'll find out one thing. You're no different than me if you tell yourself the truth.
Jake the Snake Roberts, once he fully developed that persona, was able to make you believe that he really was a snake in the grass. And there was probably some truth to it.
He was kind of a dad's shadow in a way. I think he spent as much time as he could with Dad and maybe, I guess, learning the ropes, you know.
Nice.
That's Dad and Jake.
Jake the Snake Roberts here. Real name is Orion Smith Jr.
Yes, it is.
Now you know why I went with Jake the Snake.
So your career in wrestling, what was your dad's reaction to your interest in wanting to do that?
He didn't want me in wrestling, period. In fact, he got me fired a couple places, asked the promoters to fire me, to get me out. I got humiliated, I got stretched, I got tore up, basically crawled back to the locker room, and my father looked at me and said, I'm ashamed of you, you're gutless, and you'll never amount to anything. Exactly what I wanted to hear. That was my whole drive. I got into wrestling because I hated my father. And I was going to break it off in his ass.
That's wild.
I wanted to hear my father say, I'm proud of you, son.
You sure did break it off in his ass, Jake.
You know, he never told me that. He'd tell other wrestlers he was proud of me, but he wouldn't tell me. Never. And that was my drive.
So do you know how your dad got involved in wrestling?
He had worked in the oil fields. He met someone that knew about wrestling or was involved in wrestling and, you know, saw this big, humongous dude, you know, and said, he'd probably be good.
He would line
Scary,
up on
brother,
Friday
scary.
afternoon where they all got paid outside the railroad yard. And he would stand up against the wall, and the guys would pay him 25 to 50 cents. They would pay him if they could just draw back and hit him in the stomach as hard as they could, because it was a bet to try to make him double over. He would make more money that afternoon in an hour's time than he would the whole week. So then he got to wild hair and he wanted to get into wrestling.
He was 7 foot tall, about 350 pounds. Long red hair, big beard. Looked like he just walked right out of the woods.
I wore a pair of blue jeans and had a rope, a sash cord, that's what it's called. That was his belt. If he could ever get a hold of somebody and wrap his arms around him, and that was it.
For you, as a young kid, to watch your dad wrestle, how did it feel?
Wow, how'd it make me feel?
Yeah.
I was honored. I mean, Superman was my dad. He's the main event. He's the biggest thing on the card. He really was the biggest thing on the card.
I used to get really freaked out when he'd go to the matches and stuff, and I'd be inside the matches watching him. He'd get his head busted open or, scratched, and he'd go to bleeding and stuff. Well, I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, and I would totally flip. So Dad'd get out of the ring, I'd go back to the back with him, and I'd be crying my eyes out, and he'd go back there and he'd sit down, and the doc would look at him and say, Grizz, I told you I can't do anything else with your head because the skin, the tissue was tore up so bad. They'd take it, clean him up, put a butterfly and Band-Aid on it. Okay, see you tomorrow night. And then he would travel to the next town, and it's just an ongoing thing.
Don't feel too bad for him, y'all.
When I was a kid, I said, why does he want to do that? He told me, so I got to make a living.
I think one of the things that has helped me to understand life and to enjoy life as much as I do is my father. He would give you a whipping for lying to him. He'd give you a whipping whenever he thought you needed it. He'd give you a whipping for making a mistake.
My father was a mean man. Mean in the way that he tortured us psychologically. He would play the angle out at home, his injuries, his feeling of the upcoming match, how dangerous this match was going to be with those guys. And, I look back now and I said, why didn't I figure it out? They kept showing up in the same territory my dad would go to every damn time. What the hell? These guys are chasing my father down. They're going to kill him. I remember crying myself to sleep many a night thinking my dad was going to die. And that bastard never told us anything.
By the end of the 70s, Grizzly Smith retires from wrestling in the ring and transitions to a management position behind the scenes. But he would use his power and influence for something much more sinister.
I'd been around the business for a little while at that point, and when I first got there and was in the locker room hearing all the other people who had known Grizzly longer, been around him, talk about him, the wrestlers always had a way of knocking or talking behind the back of the authority figure or the office personnel. But I'd never heard it like this. Every joke, wherever Grizzly wasn't, every single little statement had something to do with, I wonder if Grizzly's mentoring the young girls, or he's probably got one of them on his lap reading her Bible verses.
Yeah.
And they would laugh and they thought that was funny. I'm like, that kind of strange. And I had no idea of the backstory that the family had that would come out in years and decades later on.
Everybody knew Grizz. Everybody had good things to say about him. You wanted to do road trips with him because you wanted to pick his brain about, like, how can I make myself better? How do I make more money? My name is Nicola Roberts. I worked in the wrestling profession. My dad promoted in Lubbock, Texas. Both of my parents were wrestlers. But how I actually met and got into the Smith family, I think this was like April of '85. I kind of started talking to Sam a little bit then, and July 30th was the very first day that we kissed, and we got married a year to the date from there.
Baby doll is mother of my children. I love her immensely. I always will.
What was your experience with Grizzly Smith?
The craziest thing to go along with the whole Grizzly Smith and the weirdness of it was to do a road trip with him. We would, like, all of a sudden be like 50 miles off the road picking up some 14, 15-year-old girl. Then she was going to ride with us for 3 to 4 days. And it was just like, you're going to put, okay. And then her parents were like waving on the front yard, like, bye, see you on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
It was really weird because it wasn't until after his death that you kind of start finding out, the whole whirlwind of the stories and the whole just horrible stuff that was going on. And I was there, and you kind of get that feeling like, okay, something's not quite right, and you look for it. I was right there and I never saw it.
Before embarking on a career in the ring as Jake the Snake Roberts, Aurelian Smith Jr. endures a traumatic childhood which would be a source of torment for the rest of his life.
Jake was a mean son of a bitch that didn't care about nothing. And there's nothing that's out of bounds with Jake. Aurelian, completely different cat. Aurelian hasn't grown since he was 12, 13 years old. I put him away a long time ago. I had to, because it hurt too much. I don't think I've been Aurelian in 30 or 40 years, and I don't know that I ever will be again. Aurelian feels it, and Aurelian remembers, and Aurelian's crippled and can't do nothing about it. But I am more comfortable with Jake now. I respect Jake. I know how dangerous Jake can be. Jake's okay as long as you got him handcuffed, you know? Really, seriously. Really very scared kid.
The third person.
I don't think I've grown since.
I get that he's not the creep in this, but the third person shit is really freaking me out.
What can you tell us about your mother and where she came from and how she ended up with your father?
She was 13 when I was born.
Jesus.
My father was a pedophile.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Pedophile.
Yeah.
Which would haunt me the rest of my life. By the age of 17, then he divorced my mother, and he left and went on the road, leaving us all behind. Kids got passed out. My little brother Richard was passed out to my dad's sister.
Steve Austin and Bob Happy have zero chemistry.
My sister Jolene was,
damn it,
she was tossed everywhere. She spent too much time with my dad, if you know what I mean. My mother was blind to a lot of this. I had a great mother, wonderful mother, loving mother.
After his parents split up, Jake lives an idyllic life with his grandmother until she passes away when he is 11 years old, forcing him to move back in with his father and his new wife, Marcia.
I thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever, man.
Decent.
So cool. Well,
99, y'all.
It wasn't cool. He was forced to take me home with him shortly after I moved in with him. His wife started playing games, sometimes games that weren't so funny, sexual games. I went
creepy shit
to my dad and told on her one time.
Chill skull.
She stopped me right in the middle of it. Said, I'll tend to you later. And she went in and talked to my dad. Next thing I know, she beat me with a damn clothes hanger and fly swatter. It's one thing to have sex, but it's another thing to get beaten for doing it. Freaked me out. Little did I know my father was aware of all that because he was doing the same thing to my sisters.
First, I want to say this, is that my intention is not to destroy a legacy that was, you know, my dad was great at what he did. He could be a hero, but to me, he was my monster. I guess just going back to when it all started, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And the wild thing about it was that
huge ratings,
I remember
y'all. Huge ratings.
About a month before
it's our biggest rating ever.
The first thing ever happened, he basically was working me. And this is part of the manipulation that I think that people do to kind of groom you and, you know, get you where they want you, basically. So for about a month or so before the first thing ever happened, he was walking around completely ignoring me. He couldn't stand to be in the same room. You know, as an 8-year-old kid, I mean, you think, well, what in the world have I done? All you want is the love of your parents, right? Then one day, my mother was gone, and he worked during the day. He was home working in the office in the back, and so he called me in the back, and just to say, well, you know, Daddy loves you. And I mean, I was so relieved that, you know, oh, he does love me. He doesn't hate me. And that turned into the first time he put his hands on me. So you come out of that real confused and real, you know, had no idea how to process that. I mean, you just don't. I think that very day it strips you of your security, it strips you of your self-worth, self-respect, innocence. It strips you of all the things that make you a child. It really does.
How long did that period last?
I think from when I was about 8 until about 14. I told my mother about it, and she gathered up everything, and we left. At about 15, I actually remember telling him that if he ever did anything again, that I would shoot him with his own gun, because I knew where they were.
Jake has spoken about some inappropriateness from being around your mother. What do you know about that?
All I can tell you is that my mother was not the kind of person that would have tried to be inappropriate. If something happened with my mother, I tend to think that my dad probably asked her to do some things that she never would have done, just for his own whatever pleasure. She was, what, 16, whenever they got married. So she was very, very young.
When Robin is 15 years old, her half-sister Jolynn, Grizzly's other daughter, pays her an unexpected visit.
She came, she picked me up, and we went out, we went shopping. And to me, it seemed like there was something that she was wanting to tell me or talk to me about or ask me, or she was just asking me quite a few questions. Her main thing was, do I feel safe? Do I feel comfortable? I think she wanted to know if I had gone through the same thing, because there was no doubt in my mind that the same thing happened to her. I don't doubt it to this day. It just seemed like there was an awful lot on her mind. And then it was about 2 weeks later when she was kidnapped.
Whoa.
Richard and Mike and I were at a roller skating rink. We had gone over there, gone skating, and they came over the intercom and said, Robin, Mike, Richard, the Smith family.
Got a phone call. It was Dad, and they told me, said, you need to get home immediately.
So we got home. Dad left a note in the house that said Jolynn had been kidnapped. I thought it was kind of crazy at first, because I was like, how does he know she's been kidnapped? Was there a ransom, or what was going on? Richard put his hand through the wall.
I busted, and I totally lost him.
They were very close, Richard and Jolynn. Closer than any of us.
Somebody has hurt my sister. I need to find out what my next step is. I couldn't understand why somebody wanted to kidnap somebody that was so sweet. She never hurt nobody. She had no intentions of hurting nobody. She just wanted to live a happy, free life. And she was finally happy. She had a kid. That mission was accomplished. The quiet, peaceful trailer park he was living in. She finally had it going on. And then this.
When you talk about murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, something like that, no, we just didn't have that. That just wasn't in Tatum, Texas. My name's Carl Gage. My nickname's Buzz. I've been Buzz all my life. I'm 69 years old. In 1979, I was 28, and I was chief of police in Tatum, Texas. As I remember, just on routine patrol that one particular morning, and the manager from the Cherry Hill Mobile Home Park flagged me down. I knew him when he said, had a kidnapping out here at the trailer park.
Jolynn was there with little Ted, her baby. They grabbed her and pulled her out and threw her in this car and took off.
Jolynn was 5'10", probably weighed 200. You ain't gonna take her down by yourself. Me and her used to wrestle, and she's tough. So there ain't no way one person loaded her in that car.
Went right to it pretty quick, got out there, and the door's open. Of course, we hear something in the house, and I thought, what's that? And he said, well, her baby is in there. The baby's fine, wasn't no problem. Then the husband got there. We got in, and I noticed some letters on the
little table there by the door, and I said, what are these? They're addressed to your wife. I said, that's my ex-wife. She would send threatening letters to her.
With the menacing letters as evidence, authorities' #1 suspect becomes Phelan Rogers, the ex-wife of Jolynn's husband. Investigators discover incriminating evidence in Phelan's car, and she eventually confesses to the kidnapping, but she claims Jolynn escaped shortly after the abduction.
Searching, oh, Lord have mercy. We had search parties out. We had helicopters, we had horses, we had motorcycles, we had people on foot. I had a psychic call me. She came down, I think I can help you out. I think I'm getting messages from Jolynn. She was given personal possession of Jolynn's. She was saying, it's dark, maybe like a well or something. Let's start looking for abandoned wells. And we got information on a couple of them that had been covered or filled in, so we went out, we checked them. We never found a body.
Jolynn's body is never recovered, making a murder charge impossible. Phelan is brought to court indicted on the lesser charge of kidnapping, and the Smith family is devastated.
I think that's probably the first time my father ever missed a wrestling match was when my sister was kidnapped. He went to the trial. I didn't go to the trial. I was medicating myself, trying to pass out every day.
The only information we got was through Dad, because we weren't allowed to go to court. And he just said, no, you're not going to court. And that was that.
It's amazing that the evidence was overwhelming, but without the body and without somebody to say, I saw her kill her. She got convicted of aggravated kidnapping, got 33 years. I think she served 7.
Dad used to carry a piano string in his hand. You can take a piano string and 2 pieces of wood and hold it in your hand. He was hoping to get close enough to her. Supposedly, is what I've been told. He was wanting to get close enough to her to where that he could be able to do that, and it would kill her. I was told there was 4 sheriffs in front and back and on the sides because Dad was so large. And they knew with a man that large, once he was mad, it was going to be hell to pay.
Well, like I say, murder's hard to prove. How can you prove murder? Go back to the story. She works at a place that has an incinerator. I believe that that's where they took her. Whether she was conscious, unconscious, or even dead, I think she found her way to the incinerator. And there's no evidence there. It's all gone.
I just started thinking that who would have the most to lose here? What's the reason to get rid of her? And I thought, well, I mean, really, somebody who's got a lot to lose would be Dad. If she was going to expose him, you know, with the young girls, and, you know, it cost him his career. And so, yeah, I kind of questioned that. Richard really wanted to go to Unsolved Mysteries, and Dad actually told him he didn't want him to. But why in the world wouldn't you want that? They actually solve murders. Dad was against it. So, you know, that throws in more suspicion there.
Yeah, there's a wild thought. Did Dad have something to do with it? Was he involved? I don't know. You could bring up 1,000 questions on the whole ordeal. I wished I could say, man, I walked in there and I seen my dad, and he was just bawling his eyes out. It tore him to shreds. I never saw it.
Although a conviction is made for the kidnapping of Jolynn Smith, Jake the Snake Roberts and his siblings struggle to cope with the tragic loss of their sister.
Was there anything that you took from your experience growing up and put it into your character?
Oh yeah, the hate. I use the hate a lot, man. Thank you, Dad. The whole Snake character was me because I didn't want people looking at me. Look at the snake bag. Don't look at me. Don't ask me questions. Look at the snake bag. Everybody fears that. Everybody knows that. Kids loved it because Mom and Dad went, oh my God, a snake. And they love seeing Mom and Dad do that. You know, so therefore they love Jake the Snake. You know, crazy people.
As Jake's stardom continues to reach new heights, Robin seizes the opportunity to pursue a career in wrestling.
I went to North Carolina and trained with Nelson Royal, who was a fabulous wrestler and legend.
And Nelson trained her like one of the guys. Wow, okay.
I wanted to change things. I wanted the girls' matches to be just as exciting, you know, if they could, as the guys. I mean, why not?
When Robin completes her training, she uses her father's connections to show off her skills at a WWF TV taping, and she catches the attention of top promoter Vince McMahon.
So they put me on a dark match with Sherry. I couldn't tell you how long it lasted. I mean, it's a complete, total blur to this day. I have no idea what happened. All I know is that when I got out, Mr. McMahon had said, oh, my God, she throws a punch like a guy. And I was like, cool, all right. And then the next thing I know, I get a package in the mail at my house that is airline tickets and schedule and all that. And I was like, wow. You know, it was a total surprise.
Back in the day, no contract, here's some airline tickets.
History has been made here in Paris, France.
At the time, they had Grizz, Sam, Robin, and Jake were all working for the WWE at the time.
In wrestling, the best compliment that you can be given is that somebody say you're a hell of a hand, you're a good worker. That means that you can not only perform pro wrestling at a high level, but you can do it without hurting your opponent. And Sam Houston was the best worker in the family. He was the lightest. He was actually too light. He was painfully thin. And that was what held him back from being used in a more prominent position, especially in the bigger territories, Crockett Promotions, the NWA.
Poor Sam Houston.
Unfortunately, Mike was like a lot of other wrestlers. He got to making good money and stuff, was doing good, and then went to drinking.
What was his drinking like at the time?
Listen, whenever he told my dad that we were getting married, he had 32 Crown and Cokes.
Damn.
32.
32. It was amazing how much he could drink and still be able to walk.
So did you see that as a problem for him?
The time I thought I would love him enough that it would get better and it wouldn't matter and that my love could conquer all, and it didn't. I just realized that it wasn't me. There was nothing I could have done.
Addictive personality must run through our entire family. I mean, seriously, because there's very strong addictions. You have to find ways to put that self-respect back into yourself.
After years of living on her own, Robin gets a surprise visit from her father, Grizzly.
The bell rings and I go to open it up and I see him standing there, and right by his side, this little girl about 9 years old.
So messed up.
I could tell you the color, everything just drained from my body, and I knew for sure this girl's in trouble. So he comes in, and the first thing he says, can you make her a daiquiri? Do you have the stuff to make her a daiquiri? She wants to try daiquiris. It took everything just not to absolutely come apart and come unglued. And I said, no, I don't. Shortly after, he went to the back and he went to bed. I stayed up with her all night. We never went to sleep. And I wanted to ask questions, and I knew what questions to ask. I said, you know, sometimes does he pull off to the side of the road and want to give you a kiss? And she said, yeah. It didn't scare her, but I mean, she was like, but yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. He got up the next morning, got all his things together and said, come on, we got to go. And I said, you're going to go, but she's not going anywhere. She's staying right here. I was not letting this girl go anywhere. I think that told him everything he needed to know about how I felt.
Hell of a woman right there. That's good shit, you know?
Reeling from the traumas endured in their adolescence, Jake, Robin, and Sam each battle addiction into adulthood. But for Sam, the consequences become a matter of life or death.
Sam Houston had the all-time Texas state record for most DUI offenses. And the reason why that he was not jailed for them long before that he was because Grizzly Smith had been such a big name and such an important person and knew so many people in the state of Texas over all those years and et cetera, that he was able to get him out of it.
He never spent more than a day or two in jail before Grizz was right there and got him out because he knew somebody. And Grizz just knew everybody. I think he knew something about everybody.
Ricky Knight and Bearcat, excellent chemistry.
You had boy jail for a while. Was there a time where your dad was able to help you out with that, or?
I really don't know, because I mean, everything I was ever charged was always first or
100.
first offense, or I think
100.
I got a second offense.
Beautiful.
There's basically always a fine that I'd have to pay, and
nice.
you know, community service. Anytime I was doing anything like that, any kind of community service, I always gave
Jake Roberts.
I watched 7 fire trucks one day for the parade, you know.
So obviously I didn't get too specific about what I'm booking here, but this is Jake Roberts' second victory over Kerry. You know, exactly what Jake said earlier when he was describing his gimmick. His gimmick is the bag, the snake bag. Everybody's afraid of the snake bag. And at this time, everybody loves the Von Erichs. And specifically, like Chris, not Chris, why do I always want to call him Chris Von Erich? Chris Von Erich's the youngest. Kevin Von Erich, Kerry's oldest brother, technically, is the champ, right? So it's kind of a big thing. You know, the Von Erichs are on the upswing, and everybody's, you know, getting behind the Von Erichs. But Jake the Snake Roberts, he doesn't fuck with that. So he's out here stretching the other Von Erich, making sure everybody knows, you know, they're not on top right now. They're not completely on top. The heels still have a hold over the Von Erichs. Yeah.
After years of shocking repeat offenses and lenient
And that's what he's
punishments,
saying. Now he's
Sam's
coming
luck
for
has run out.
Kevin. He's coming
Grizzly
for the
is
title.
unable to come to his rescue, and Sam is ultimately sent to prison.
If they caught you doing something 20-something times, how many times have you really done it?
Woo!
The Mothers Against Drunk Driving had gotten his record and had seen like all the judges and all the magistrates that had gotten Sam off.
Finally, he did have to go to jail.
Can't do the Ric Flair walk while I'm sitting, but you know what I'm saying?
I was at the end of my rope.
Strutting while I'm sitting, y'all.
2 days, January 12th, 2 days that Saturday night.
97. 31 regions.
I knew I had to break my neck.
31 regions.
Woo! I said, God, only you can stop this. And I jumped. I'm gonna tell y'all, I hit the ground with such force. The soles of my feet were bruised for weeks. I know how to tie a knot. These knots broke.
Meanwhile, Jake spirals deeper into new depths of drug and alcohol-fueled addictions.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this. A lot of people in professional wrestling, just like a lot of people in professional sports, a lot of people in rock and roll, have had bad personal habits. Having said that, Jake's were stunning. The one guy that you would think,
waiting on Marty
this guy's
Jannetty
not
to
gonna
get out
make
so
it,
we can do
and
his
somehow
dark
he
side of the
always
ring.
did, and still has. He was like the Keith Richards of pro wrestling.
The most important thing in my life for 20 years was cocaine, above all things.
Woo.
Above sex, above money, above children, above wives, above mama, above everything. Cocaine had to be number one. That is really messed up. I will tell you this. Being in the limelight gets you things that you think you want or you need. Because when you do drugs, your idea of a good time changes, brother. You get kind of freaky. You know, at first it was one girl, then it was two girls, and then it was three girls doing this with a rabbit and a dog and a donkey and a clown. Hey, having fun, sitting on the back of a chair with a lamp on my head. Yeah, it gets stupid.
I guess one of the biggest lows in Jake's career was the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view. And this is story number 747,000 of Jake Roberts showing up in no condition to perform or actually to function as a human being.
fuck.
A lot of the guys that night put in bad performances just because they were out of shape or past their prime, but with Jake, he was legitimately on planet Neptune.
Oh.
Everybody knew that Jake was not right. And he had a snake, which became a phallic symbol. And it was a 10-year period or more there, where that more often than not, if Jake Roberts made a public appearance, you would hear about Jake Roberts doing something he shouldn't do in public.
I'm a junkie. I'm a liar. I'm a thief. Do you know how much self-hate is involved in admitting that? How I had to look at myself in the mirror. I took all the mirrors down, the ones that didn't, I broke.
Within years of the WWF phasing out their women's division, Robin ends her career as a wrestler and eventually hits her own rock bottom with alcohol abuse.
Drinking was never a problem. I did it really well. I was better than just about anybody at it. It wasn't necessarily because of not working as much. I think that had more to do with from my childhood. You know, unfortunately, the result of that is addiction, and even with that, I realized that it wasn't getting me anywhere. And, you know, my father ruined my childhood, and so I'll be damned if he ruins the rest of my life.
On June 12, 2010, Grizzly Smith dies from complications due to Alzheimer's disease. He was 77 years old. His biological son, Richard, who was given up for adoption,
I've lost
would be
2
Grizzly's
grandparents to
sole caretaker
Alzheimer's, so I
until
can say
the
that.
end.
Not like go Alzheimer's, just like
got here
fuck
quick as I
Grizzly
could.
Smith. You feel me?
Dad had passed.
Look at that. That's great. We love to see that for Rockin' Rebel. We love that. Or wait, Rockin' Rebel. I thought that was Rockin' Robin. She's also on my short list. So we love to see that for both of them.
He died while I was in prison. I'm in the worst place in the world. I've just got the most devastating news in the world.
Well, he's got a lot of good qualities. And he was born out of love, and I still love him.
I thought that with him passing, I wouldn't have to think of some things anymore. But memories don't go away that easily.
Did he ever, at any point in his life, apologize or talk about what he put you guys through?
No. Hell no.
I don't think he thought, no, I don't think he thought he did anything wrong. You know, there was never any kind of serious conversation, apologies, anything like that. I think he thought everything was just fine.
Jake, you need a homie. We gotta get you a friend. Let's see.
Abuse experiences?
A few years ago, we finally did. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine how devastating that could be to somebody. You know, and Robin, I guess, like my mom, you know, they knew as a child growing up that my father was Superman to me. And they wouldn't do anything to tarnish him because they care for me so much.
Sam idolized his dad. He probably would have forgiven his dad for it rather than helped his sister.
Carrie? We
Why
want
do
to
you
get
think
one
that
with Carrie.
He could make Sam
Extremely
believe
high with
that
Kevin.
it was Robin's fault. Or he
Yeah.
could make Sam believe that it was Jake's
Yeah.
fault. It wasn't
There we go.
Chris's fault. It
Jake's
was
got a
somebody else's
friend.
fault.
That's good. We want that
I don't blame
for him.
anybody
We
at
love
all
that for him.
for the lack of being together. That was all done early on by Dad. So, I mean, it's nobody dropped the ball. It's not anybody's fault. It was how it was.
It's me and Dad. I was probably 10. He never apologized for giving me up for adoption, and I never asked for it. I have no complaints. I mean, how can I complain? I'm the lucky one out of the bunch, is the way I consider it.
With Grizzly's death, his children finally feel safe enough to open up about their experiences from childhood, but their estrangement still exists today.
I think there's a certain amount of hope that Robin and I could be friends. I respect her and I love her very much. And it'd be nice to have a sister.
Bro, that's
Yeah,
your
I'd love to be
friend.
close with
You won't
everybody,
lose
you
to
know?
him.
I understand though that we've all got like different paths.
I wish I could have spent more time with my siblings. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I'd like to try.
I did
And
have
after
to give
this,
Jake
there's a lot of
creative
thoughts
to
going through my mind
get
right
him to
now.
sign.
It's maybe I got to figure out how to do that. Bridge you got to cross.
You know, I think this is opening some communication.
No
It
defenses.
might have a little to do with bringing us a
How
little
many
bit
Carrie had?
closer in. I guess this
Okay.
is why I agreed to go ahead and
Fine.
talk about it, was that I
Wait,
want people to
Jake's
really
been a
know
champ here
it's
before,
very,
though,
very
right?
tough, and I would never say it's easy to get past it. I
I'm gonna
don't
have to
know
make
that
him
you ever
lose
do
it to
get
fucking.
past
Oh
it,
no, that was funk.
but you don't have to stay in it. You can be successful. You can overcome it. And for God's sakes, if there's something you're going through now, if anybody's going through it now, tell somebody. You've got to tell somebody. It will not stop. You have to tell somebody, and you will get help.
We're gonna let Jake.
What I want to tell you is this: you can't glorify what happened to me, but I ain't the only one. There's millions of other kids that are going through the same thing as I speak.
No, I can't.
If you're one of those kids,
I can't.
run.
I can't.
Run like the wind. Go to the police. Go to your pastor. Go to the. Just go.
Maybe not the pastor.
And if it's already happened to you,
if it's like a Catholic church, just say.
Gotta get help. I'm 65.
But if you're in that
now,
situation,
I'm not ashamed anymore.
I guess
Still
take
a
what you
little
can
angry
get,
at
right?
times, but not so angry that I have to medicate it. I've been sober now for 10 years. 10 years.
That's beautiful.
I made it all the way.
That's beautiful.
The bottom line is never, ever, ever give up.
All right. So that's that one, y'all. Do we keep the train going? I mean, do we just keep it going? I don't think any reason not to. So I will say, actually, yeah, you know what? It will work out because the next one I have queued up for this series is going to be the plane ride from hell, and I feel like we don't have to reissue the trigger warning at that point, right? Yeah. Just, I mean, realistically, right? Ric Flair may or may not have done some sexual harassment. We'll define it later. I'm not gonna let Tommy Dreamer define it, but we'll figure out what it is later. You can come up with your own thing. We'll just hear from both sides. I did book this Jake Roberts match. Flair's trash, can't stand him. I mean, hey, that is an opinion. I don't necessarily love like his personal. I mean, I really haven't heard anything other than this dark side of the. Right? Okay, yeah. As a human, I was gonna say you can't say that about his in-ring work as like a competitor and as like a brand or like a marketing situation. I mean, he sells tickets. But yeah, Flair's not a great human. I wouldn't say. I think there's a lot out there about him. So everybody can make their own call. Is it still lagging at all? Like my speech to when it hits? Because I might restart the stream just to get it to freshen up a bit, if that's the case, and to make it a nice even VOD. It's all good. All good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I do need a break. I'm gonna hit the bathroom. I might have a little RVD session, if you know what I'm saying, off stream here, and then get back to y'all. MIA for the next hour work meeting. So hey, you know what? Let's take about an hour break, y'all, and we'll come back after that because it's just you and me right now, I think, or there's one other person in here. But yeah, I think we lost some folks with the intensity of the Grizzly Smith episode there. Trust me, it won't be as centered around sexual assault in the next one, essay. In the next one, it's definitely not a theme though. So trigger warning for next episode. If you're watching this one right now, it on YouTube, it'll be next week's episode. If you're watching this one right now on Twitch, it'll be about an hour, and I'll start up a new stream, and we'll go from there. I'll probably reissue that a little bit right at the beginning, just so everybody's primed and ready. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Good session, good couple of episodes there. We'll do this next one with Flair. I have the plane ride from hell kind of being around Flair, so we'll book some Flair matches. I'll probably have the whole card filled in when you guys return, and I'll talk a bit about the Flair match, and all that. But yeah, we're really getting kind of through these eps here, y'all. I've got one that we're waiting for Marty Jannetty to come back, and then three that we can do right now. Couple others that we can do later on once we get some different talent in. I got to sign Bret Hart. Wait for Randy Savage to stop being toxic. As far as hiring goes. And then we'll have a couple more episodes. But yeah, we're, unfortunately for now, getting near the end of this series. We'll see what season 5 has. It doesn't seem to have anything that's specifically looking like that. But yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. And we will get to that later on. See y'all in about an hour. Peace.